Hello, so my name is Tiffany, and I will be just kind of going over some things that I learned in the class and some things that really stuck out to me, and just kind of my role in all of this, and kind of what I think some next steps should be. So I have a few notes here that I'm going to be going over. Um, so I really enjoyed this class overall. I really think that Alexander pointed out some really important issues, and I learned a lot more than what I thought I would. So um, it was really good, and I would definitely recommend this class and the book to anybody. And it's just like she really talked about some really key parts as far as like color blindness and mass incarceration, and just like a lot of factors that play into mass incarceration and things like that. Um, I learned one of the things that I learned a lot about was the war on drugs. I knew a lot about it, but not as much as what I thought I knew. Um, and it was just really eye opening to kind of see how that played out throughout history, and doing research on it. I think, like, in one of our discussions, we kind of talked about this, but I think one of the biggest things is that the war on drugs was really intended to go after, like, the drug dealers, but it actually ended up doing, like, the complete opposite and um, ended up going after people who were buying the drugs. So it wasn't taking down the big man, so to speak, in that case. And one of the articles that I looked up for that discussion talked about one of the statistics that they mentioned was that in 2010 there were 60,000 arrests for non-violent drug offenses, which I found to be really shocking. It's a really, really high number. And that kind of speaks to why we have this issue of mass incarceration. Um, and then one of the other things that I learned a lot about was how um, you have discrimination within all these different entities and systems and institutions around like jury duty and housing and employment and things like that. And it really opened my eyes to like some underlying issues that I never really knew were there per se. But it's just like really interesting to hear about that, and then especially getting to do all of the group projects that were talking about those issues were really interesting as well. Um, and I learned a lot from everybody's project, so that was a really cool um, thing to do. Another thing that like really kind of hit me, I guess, was the last discussion that we had about reformation, reformation versus transformation. I really liked that question because it really like kind of like made me think, like, okay, what we have all this knowledge about the issues that are going on, so what do we do now? What are the next steps? Like, how do we kind of tackle this issue? So in my discussion post, I kind of talked about how I think there needs to be like a little bit of both, um, reformation and transformation. And I think like a lot of it stems from different like law enforcement and different like professions that kind of all are involved in this issue. I think a lot of it needs to be, my personal opinion, I think a lot of it we need to kind of like collaborate more around this issue and trying to figure out what like a better way to help like these people that are getting stuck in the system for non-violent drug offenses for ridiculous amounts of time. So kind of like, how do we tackle that, and how do we kind of come together between all these different professions and figure out a better way to prevent that from happening? And that kind of is like, what are the next steps? That kind of is what do we need to do, and what would work best. So I think it's a little bit of both. We need to kind of not completely get rid of everything, but I think definitely take a second look at everything and what we're doing. And there's obviously a lot of issues within the criminal justice system that need to be reevaluated, and a lot of things that are going on that shouldn't really be going on. So I think as far as what role I play in this, I think a lot of it, well, the first step obviously was education. Like I said, I definitely learned a lot more about this class, and even from our final paper, just kind of re-looking at everything, revisiting everything, and kind of going through these different steps. Okay, well, what is a racial caste system? What is mass incarceration? And how does that kind of play out within the micro, meso, and macro levels of social work, and what role do social workers play in that kind of thing? So I think definitely the first step is educating, and like not only educating myself, but educating other people as well about this issue, and kind of bringing light to the issue. I think that's another problem, is a lot of people are not aware of what's going on, so they just kind of don't pay attention. If it doesn't impact them, then why bother? So education is a huge part. And then I also think advocating for these people that are getting stuck within the system and getting placed within this system that's not there to help them at all. It's basically there to set them up for failure. So I think making sure that we as social workers and just professionals in general are advocating for these people who don't have a voice themselves. And that's a part of our code of ethics as social workers, is to advocate for others who can't advocate for themselves. And I think, like I mentioned before, a lot of it is kind of like collaborating. So using our resources that we have and going to legislation and fighting legislation, and all these policies that are put in place, going to collaborate with law enforcement and like just other professionals in general that kind of are involved in this issue. So yeah, that's kind of everything in a nutshell, and that definitely doesn't cover everything that we've learned, but that's just kind of like a small part of it in this short video. So if you guys have any questions, comments, feel free to post them, and I will answer them as best as I can. And I'm excited to hear everybody else's thoughts on the class